After what's happening in Hawaii that we're looking at every day because it's still ongoing with fresh liquid magma pouring out, we have to admire that the United States has a supervolcano. Yellowstone volcanic eruption will cause a nuclear winter to sweep the US and most of North America, experts warn. Now we have here a worldwide map showing various past huge volcanic eruptions. You can see the one on the upper left-hand side being Yellowstone, about 640,000 BC. That was a VEI level 8. You also had the Tamboa, VEI level 7. And of course, the one that was about 1,650 BC, the Thera Santorini explosion, believed to be the one that was at the time of Moses and the tribes of Israel exodus from Egypt. Here you have a comparison. Mount St. Helens is all the way to the right, and Yellowstone is all the way to the left. Also, the second to last is the Yellowstone Lava Creek, and the one in the middle is Yellowstone Mesa Falls, and you can see all of them as compared to the Alaskan and the Mount St. Helens and Krakatoa. They were tiny compared to what Yellowstone can give. This is the latest May 28th lava flow situation. It's a chaotic thing, as you can see. PGV was in the middle of that on the upper left-hand center. This is the recent Iceland volcanic eruption of 2010 that created havoc in basically the northern hemisphere of Europe. It stopped at the borders of northern Greece. And here we have a comparison of the ash flow of basically the small volcanic eruptions that took place. Krakatoa, Nova Rupta of Alaska in 1912. I'll leave a link for the video before this one. You can have a description of what took place from eyewitness accounts of what took place in that Alaska ash fallout that gave a volcanic winter for 2 years in 1912 and 1913 in the northern hemisphere of the world. And this again is Yellowstone, the last and the second to last and the third to last. You see how huge they are compared to Pinatubo, Krakatoa, and Mount St. Helens. That was absolutely tiny compared to the huge Yellowstone catastrophic eruptions. And of course, we're not ready for that. And experts are saying that we have to have some kind of a worldwide system where we should get ready for that. If Yellowstone erupts, nuclear winter will sweep the US. This is what experts warn. Yellowstone-Super-Volcano has the potential to develop the US in a nuclear winter, which would leave 90,000 people losing their lives almost instantly the moment it erupts. The giant supervolcano has been dormant for over 70,000 years, and scientists say there is a possibility that it could erupt one day. Daily Mail UK reports it's one of the largest active continental silicic volcano fields in the world. Silicic is used to describe magma or igneous rock rich in silica. Experts say there is 1 in 700,000 annual chance of a volcanic eruption at the site. An in-depth report by How Stuff Works has revealed the process that would take place if the volcano were to blow. This is a supervolcano, remember, and it's hundreds of times more powerful than Mount St. Helens of 1980, for example. It says that a mixture of magma, rocks, vapor, carbon dioxide, and other gases would eventually push out from the ground, creating a dome shape with cracks. The gases dissolved would then explode, releasing the magma across the park. The eruption, they say, could kill as many as 90,000 people almost instantly and release a 10-foot or 3-meter layer of molten ash 1,000 miles from the park. That's 1,609 kilometers. 10-foot deep layer of ash, 10 feet deep. That's a one-story house, a family house, okay? That's covered, let's say, in molten ash. The ash would block off all points of entry from the ground, and the spread of ash and gases into the atmosphere would stop most air travel, just as it did when a much smaller volcano erupted in Iceland back in 2010. Sulfuric gases released from the volcano would spring into the atmosphere and mix with the planet's water vapor. The haze of gas that could drape the country wouldn't just dim the sunlight, it would also cool temperatures. It adds that falling temperatures would damage our food supply, destroying crops and causing a worldwide food shortage. But not everyone believes that a Yellowstone eruption would be as catastrophic as this. Last year, a study by the United States Geological Survey, USGS, concluded that a volcanic eruption at Yellowstone would cover cities across the country with ash and shut down air travel and communication. We're talking about across the country, not just 10 foot around the area. But it added that it would not herald the end of the United States as we know it, as the latest report has claimed. The scientists used a program called ASH 3D to model the effects of a Yellowstone super-eruption and found that cities up to 300 miles from the park would be covered by up to 3 feet of ash. Okay, well, 3 feet is much better than 10 feet, but still 3 feet is like up to your waist. So still nothing is going to survive with 3 feet of molten ash, burning hot molten ash. Nothing will survive. Not the trees, not the animals, not the people, nothing. And you can certainly not drive or bicycle or even walk through 3 feet of molten ash wherever you have to get to. So 3 feet of molten ash is as bad as 10 feet of molten ash, I would say, in this case. Cities further afield in the Midwest would be covered by a few inches, and coastal cities such as, for example, let's go all the way east to New York, or all the way west, which is closer to Yellowstone, California, would get only a fraction of an inch. Still, a fraction of an inch is still deadly. An eruption at Yellowstone could create an umbrella cloud of ash, which would expand evenly in all directions, driven by the force of the seismic event. Seismic, of course, it's not just a volcanic eruption. There's going to be a lot of rumblings and tremors and quakes, earthquakes. Let's say that again. The eruption at Yellowstone will create an umbrella cloud of ash, which would expand evenly in all directions, driven by the force of the seismic event. The ash would go everywhere in all directions. In essence, the eruption makes its own winds, as we saw in some of our images, as the one coming up now. You have all these, it's not just one eruption. I mean, it's miles. The caldera of Yellowstone is miles long. It's not just one little hole in the ground. And you have various geysers, various holes, each one of them erupting and full of wind, temperature changes, and lightning, and each one creating its own weather storm, as you see here. This happens to be the volcano Calbuco eruption. But Yellowstone would have hundreds of these, as you see here, going on at the same time. Winds, hurricanes, lightning, and these are going to be systems each in its own. So in essence, the eruption makes its own winds that can overcome the prevailing westerlies, which normally dominate weather patterns in the United States. This is what Larry Mastin said. He's the lead author of that new paper concerning all this. Even these smaller levels of ash would be a disaster for the U.S. The USGS study says that electronic communications, of course, and air travel throughout the country would be shut down by an eruption. So you can't talk to anybody, and you can't fly anywhere, and you certainly can't drive, walk, or bicycle anywhere. A huge cloud of ash, thousands of miles across, would also likely cause a year-long winter, at least a year long, says the study authors. The 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in the Pacific produced an ash cloud tens of miles across and caused a year without a summer across the whole globe, with snowfall in the northeastern United States in the middle of June. So you can imagine what kind of a temperature difference that caused. It was like winter in the middle of June. Areas covered in feet of ash would see buildings at risk of collapse. Roofs of buildings, of course, cannot take not even piled up snow. They can collapse with that, even water. Now, let alone molten ash. It could be that they could even catch on fire or even melt if they were materials such as plastic and steel, some kind of metal. So areas covered in feet of ash would see buildings at risk of collapse, and sewer and water lines, of course, blocked because of the ash. And you'd have to construct a whole new sewer system and water system. And winds would form large dunes of ash that would cover roads and buildings and create new mountains and new terrain even, who knows? Farming in the Midwest would be devastated by the cloud of ash, and highways across the country, of course, would become slippery and treacherous, let alone blocked. Okay, we're talking about 3 to 10 feet of ash, winds blowing, and creating dunes of ash. And how could you even see where the highway is with all this going on? The Yellowstone volcano has had 3 super eruptions, which produced more than 240 cubic miles of ash in the past. One was 2.1 million years ago, another 1.3 million years ago, and the third was 640,000 years ago. And from what experts say, anytime now, in the very near future, we're in for another eruption. Now, this article was written before they found that the caldera of the Yellowstone was 4 times as big as they thought it was. Not only that, but there's also a carbon lake underneath there, something that is totally new that they didn't know about. Now, ash from these eruptions has been found all across the United States on the east and the west coasts. We're talking about the past eruptions of Yellowstone, the 2.1 million years ago, the 1.3 million years ago, and the 640,000 years ago. All these eruptions gave ash covering the whole of the United States from coast to coast. So you could imagine what took place then. Devastation, catastrophe. The last volcanic activity at Yellowstone was 70,000 years ago, which produced a lava flow in the south of the park. In April, scientists at the University of Utah discovered an enormous secondary chamber deeper beneath Yellowstone National Park that's so large its partly molten rock could fill the Grand Canyon. Are you ready? I hope you're sitting down. The partly molten rock that they found in the secondary chamber under Yellowstone could fill the Grand Canyon 11 times over. Now you can imagine how massive this thing is. So it's a very serious threat. That's why NASA has recently given ideas that it has to nuke it, it has to drill it, pump water in it, do various things to relieve the pressure so as to save not only the United States, but to save humanity. The thing is, though, that by doing anything to it, it may cause an eruption sooner than later, which could also bring the demise of humanity. Now, last month we had a very major swarm of earthquakes in the Yellowstone area, which sparked more warnings concerning the fact that Yellowstone could be very close to an eruption, especially since the level of the ground has been rising. And experts say that it's like somebody blowing up a balloon, at one point it's going to burst. And that's exactly what they're expecting Yellowstone to do. And the fact that the Ring of Fire is also giving eruptions at various volcanoes throughout the Pacific after the 7.1 and the 8.1 magnitude earthquakes in Mexico, which probably sparked them off, who knows. Utah and Yellowstone is not that far off from the San Andreas, the Pacific Ring of Fire, and the Cascadia Fault Zone. It's pretty close, considering the fact that we also have the Long Valley volcano, the Long Valley caldera volcano in California, which is half as big as Yellowstone-Super-Volcano. And that's just right under, I mean, basically they're just neighbors to each other. If that is shaken and erupts, that definitely is going to have an effect on Yellowstone. So we have to pray that nothing happens with this. It's bad news. Now, I'm not being a fearmonger. It's just that the experts themselves are giving warnings continuously. And the fact that the United States government has entered an agreement with four southern countries of the Southern Hemisphere, foreign countries, to accept Yellowstone evacuees. They have a 10-year agreement that started in 2014 and ends in 2024, and then they have to get into another agreement again to accept American Yellowstone evacuees to their countries for relocation to foreign countries of the Southern Hemisphere, because they expect that once Yellowstone blows, the whole of the Northern Hemisphere will be unlivable. And they have hope that at least the Southern Hemisphere will be able to sustain life. That's how bad this is. Of course, they don't go around tooting their trumpets that, oh yeah, oh great, wait, look at us, we did something good, patting themselves on the back. We got into an agreement to save some people, quote unquote. You can understand who those some people are. If you ever saw the movie 2012, who was the one that had those arcs that were trying to save people? They had to have tickets and they would get a telephone call. And obviously they were the elite. It could be that they have a list of elites that have to go down there to be saved. I don't know. I would venture to say so. Do you and I know that we have to be airlifted once Yellowstone blows? I don't think so. So this is not fear-mongering. This is a reality, people. So I'll leave links below for you for this.